Welcome to the Influence Women podcast. I'm your host and global director, Kathleen Cooke. Well, we've got a great show for you today with award-winning actress, television star, and theater actress, Edwina Findley. She's just written an amazing book called The World is Waiting for You. So stay tuned because the world is waiting for you, and she's going to tell us all about it. Stay tuned. Well, hi, I'm Kathleen Cooke. Welcome to the Influence Women podcast. We have an amazing woman with us tonight, Edwina Findley Dickerson. She has been a friend and just a buddy of mine for years, but she's blowing up out there and has a fabulous new book out, The World is Waiting for You. And she's going to be talking about that. Let me tell you just a real quick bit about her. She's played Sheila in The Residence just recently. She's been on the series The Wire, Tyler Perry and own network's drama If Loving You Is Wrong. She's been on Veep, Chicago Med, Fear the Walking Dead, HBO's Treme. She was in Ava DuVernay's Sundance Award-winning film, The Middle of Nowhere. She's played Melva in Free Indeed, an award-winning show, as well as Will Ferrell's show with Kevin Hart playing his wife in Get Hard. She's passionate, though, as I am, of seeing men and particularly women flourish in this industry and manifest their God dream. She's going to be talking about that in a minute. She's the CEO of Abundant Life University. You need to check that out. She's been featured in multiple magazines, from Oprah to People to Time to In Style to Essence, on and on and on. And she has, though, the most cherishing blessings of her life, though, is her wonderful husband, Kelvin, and her two adorable daughters, Victoria Rose and London. You are going to just have a ball listening to Edwina today, and we're going to get right into it. So welcome, Edwina. Thank you so much for being with us. I know you've been on a tour and
It's my pleasure. I'm so glad to be here with you, Kathleen.
constantly going. Well, thanks so much. You just a beautiful smile and a light for us in this industry, as you are constantly teaching me even today on how we can continue to keep our tennis shoes on and tied these days for for God's kingdom purposes. So tell us about this book. I know, we've been connected for about 15 years now. I think I calculated, and I've watched you grow in your career. But this book, I devoured it over the weekend, reading it, and it's so rich and powerful. Tell us a little bit about the book, how you got inspired to write it, and how we can get a hold of it, of course.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Kathleen. And it's been a pleasure knowing you for so many years.
I
And yes,
know.
this is my new book. The world is waiting for you. Embrace your calling and manifest the God dream that's over your life. The foreword is by none other than the Academy Award winning, Grammy Award winning, SAG Award winning, Tony Award winning, just go Emmy Award winning, Golden Globe Award winning actress Viola Davis. And it's really about tapping into what God has spoken over your life from before you were
Mhm.
ever born. You know, a lot of us,
Mhm.
especially in this industry, we can strive and strain and so much of our attention can be about trying to manifest our own level of success without always realizing that actually God's already written a story over my
Mhm.
life. What is it? What is my calling? How do I tap into it? And there's a great chapter called The Secret Power of Hearing God's Voice. And I'm telling you, especially in the entertainment industry, there have been multiple times where I've heard God's voice to do something, and I'm literally just moving in obedience. and that be the thing that opened the door for massive success. And so, what I've
Mhm.
really wanted to do through this book is to help people tap into not only their own vision, but yes, your own vision, but also God's vision for you. And I was inspired by a quote that Oprah has that says, God can dream a bigger dream for you than you can dream for yourself. So even the scripture, Ephesians 3:20, God can do exceeding abundantly above all you can ask or even imagine according to the power that's at work in you. And so I just really believe that as we take the limits off of ourselves, as we take the limits off of God, and we partner with Him to dream and to vision as high as we possibly can, that He can take even that seed and do way more. So I'm excited
Yeah,
about the movement
absolutely.
that this has started.
Absolutely. I love it. And, like I've said, I've known you for just a few years and watched you just grow in the industry, grow your career, but really God's grown it in your life. And you've always put him first. You've always kept him very close to you. And I actually even loved recently watching you play Sheila on The Residents because I could capture knowing you. I could capture your tenacity that you kind of put in her. She wasn't just guts. She wasn't just grit. It wasn't just gritty, but she was gutsy. I mean, she was, she really, and that's what you are. But I believe God's giving you this gutsiness because it's a quiet confidence that you have in you. It's a knowing that God's put you where He's supposed to put you, and He's going to take you to that next step. And so I just have to share. I just loved watching you play Sheila in
Oh,
The Residents because I saw bits of you in her, and I thought,
oh,
yep,
thank you.
yep, that's her. That's her. That's my Edwina. So anyway, one thing I want to talk about is that actors, have to be fully engaged with the other actors on stage. And so when you're in a performance to do well, you have to stay fully engaged moment to moment with that actor. And I truly believe that as we become more engaged with God and as we are more moment to moment with him, that grows our ability as an actress to be moment to moment in with an actor. We call it kind of the actor's muscle. And I think that when we have grown our relationship with God, we get this spiritual muscle that's in us. But you describe in the book a divine tug that you get, this manifestation. So, what's the difference between, say, a spiritual sight and a natural sight? And what do you really mean by manifestation? Explain that a little bit to us.
Yeah, I mean, we know that a lot of people have taken that phrase and used it for a variety of different purposes, right? When I talk about manifestation, I really talk about the fulfillment of God's promise over your life. And so, or when God shows you a preview of something and then it comes to pass, right? And so I talk a lot about these kind of full circle moments where God might promise you something or put something in your spirit, may give you a prophetic word, for those people who have experienced that. That's been a big part of my life, has been receiving prophetic words. And so when I see God speaks something and then it come to pass, the word that I use is manifestation, right?
Sure.
That
Yep.
is a full circle fulfillment of the plans of God over a person's
Mm-hmm.
life or over a region, over a nation, over a business, right? And so as I've matriculated through life, in hearing God's voice, He would tell me things that didn't exist at the time, whether it was having children, whether it was who my husband was going to be, exactly who it was, whether it was working with Tyler Perry or filming in Georgia or filming in London and telling me to name my baby London because he was going to open a door in London. It's like the pattern has been that he'll speak something first. And then if you're willing to partner with that word, on the other side, you see a manifestation, but it requires great faith, right? And so that's why the
Hmm.
last chapter is called Make Bold Faith Moves. And it's all about joining your faith, what I even call your manifestation faith, right? Again, that is able to believe something
Hmm.
as big as a God dream, to be able to partner your faith and your works together and
Hmm.
watch God work miracles. For me, when I talk about manifestation, that's also what I'm talking about too. Miracles is divine
Hmm.
intervention, is when God
Hmm.
intercepts your path to create something that was God, right? That
Hmm.
was not just your own human effort.
Hmm. Yes. And I love when I was reading the book this weekend, um, reading about all these prophetic times that you had with various people. How did you know that this person could be trusted with their prophecy over you, over someone who, would just come by and maybe be like a spiritualist? I mean, there are a lot of spiritualists out there, but how did you know that you could trust these prophets over your life?
Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
wonderful, wonderful question. I'll say this. One, I'll say that I was determined to cultivate my own relationship with God. So I would intentionally seek God for answers about certain things. And I developed a heart posture where I would surrender, right? It's like, sometimes we go to God and we're like, God, I want you to do this, and then I want you to do that, and then I want you to do that. And we kind of have it all planned out of what we want him to do.
Right.
And that's one form of prayer, right? But then there's another form of prayer that's literally like kind of at the end of your rope, where it's, listen, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried this, and I literally now just want your will. And even if that means that it's the complete opposite of what I'm hoping for, dreaming of, looking for, that I'm willing to lay that down to receive your abundant life, to receive your
Hmm.
version of my life. And I found that once I got to that place of literally just wanting to purely hear God without inserting myself and my own desires in the way, what I found is that he started answering a lot of my questions. Sometimes it was a revelation, sometimes it was through the Bible, sometimes I would, even this Sunday, I like, there were questions that I was asking before I even left the house, and I ended up impromptu visiting another church, and the entire sermon was about exactly what I had asked God for revelation for before leaving home. And so he can speak through a lot of different ways. But one thing I have experienced too is him sending messengers, right? And he did it throughout the Bible. It's just we don't maybe
Hmm.
see it or experience it or talk about it a lot in our modern society. But he sent me many messengers, strangers that would tell me things to come and or would confirm things that I believed I heard God say, but sometimes I just needed that reassurance. And so to hear a stranger
Hmm.
say to me what I just wrote in my journal because I believe that's what God was saying, it's like, okay, I felt like I could trust that. But I will say this, with each person that's come to me to give a prophetic word, I haven't always known, like, is this person this? Is this person that? Like, I don't know anything a lot of times about the person themselves. What I'll do is weigh, is this something that God has already spoken to me? Is this something that God has used other people to speak to me that maybe I didn't even receive or internalize? For instance, my first child, Victoria Rose. I received a prophetic word I was going to have a baby. But at the time, I was working so much as an actress. I was traveling. I did not feel at all ready to have children. And so I was like, yeah, I don't know about that person, right? I just kind of chalked it up to that person might not even know God. I have no idea. Let me keep going. And then it's like one by one, people started calling me with dreams. They were all the same dream. It was a very specific dream, and they all ended with me having a baby. And even still, I rejected it because that's not what I wanted at the time. And then finally, I went to speak in New Orleans. And while I was there, this woman at a hotel, as I was leaving for the airport, stopped me and she said, God is saying, why are you delaying? He's been speaking to you about having a baby. You've been delaying. And here's the reason why. And, and it's like sometimes when God intercepts your path with a whole bunch of information that a person couldn't know about your life, it's like at least pay attention, right?
Yeah.
Even if you feel skeptical, like at least pay attention.
Yeah.
And I think it was the repetition of those messages. And that is what he does with me a lot when it comes to prophetic words. It's less about who the person is and more about what that person is saying, if it resonates with me, if it's already confirming something, or if it's new information, me just being able to hold it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
me holding it, me praying about
Hmm.
it, asking God, okay, is this from you, right? Because we are to keep going to God, right? We're not
Hmm.
supposed to just do what other people say, to us. We
Hmm.
need to have our own relationship so that we have
That's right.
something to discern whether or not this is God's voice.
Yeah. Well, while you're speaking, I'm thinking about that God had to come to um, Abraham, with prophetic words, and Sarah, of course, she laughed. But I also think about Moses and the burning bush. 3 times God had to say to him 3 times, here, this is what I want you to do, and this is what I want you to do. And so I do believe that God uses the prophetic spiritual realm today to assure us that we are on the right path or to guide us along. And often we are in denial of it because it seems spooky and unreal. And again, like we talked about a minute ago, we have to develop our acting muscle. We have to develop our spiritual muscle in order to discern some of this and to say, okay, God, you are talking to me, and here's 2 or 3 things that I need to be paying attention to. And it's come through various means: the Bible, prayer, someone who just happens to stop you and say, you're not paying attention, pay attention. And, I look at a lot of women who have come from a Muslim Islamic background, and they come to faith of who Christ is in their lives through a dream. Signs and wonders and dreams. God said that in our final days before he comes back, that these would increase. And I see that happening more and more in our culture. And I think today too, Edwina, what I love about what the book shows you and teaches you is that you are out on the edge. Working in this industry is a roller coaster. You're up and down, and you wait and you wait and you wait and you think, oh my gosh, nobody knows who I am anymore. And, I thought I had this job and I thought I had that and I was on a roll here, but, where are you, God, now? And so I think having to develop more of a spiritual muscle, an understanding that God is with us in that wait time as well as that in that accelerated time. And I think sometimes when we're at the top of the mountain, that's almost the most difficult time for us as performers, because we get so busy and so caught up that we're not really listening anymore. We don't have that extra time to ponder that we need to be pondering.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and that's not right. We know that it's not just for performers. I mean, that's really kind of everybody in life, but especially those who are pursuing some form of success. When you start getting busy, we pray for in those waiting times, and there's a whole chapter in the book that's the waiting season, right? That talks all about the waiting season because a lot of times we find ourselves there and it's quiet and we don't know what's happening or what to do, right? That navigating that in between where your God dream is and where you feel like you are right now, that can be a lot of tension in between, a lot of depression in between, financial lack in between. There can be so
Right.
many things in between, right? And so that's why, when I write about that, it's always about, okay, setting your gaze though, even like the Bible says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. And sometimes
Yes.
that waiting season can feel like a cross, right? But
Hmm.
you have to be able to see that there is joy on the other side. But also, I talk about how important it is to get prepared, to get
Hmm.
prepared for when that season breaks. And now you're in the spring, and now you're in the summer, and everything you learned through that waiting season or that wilderness season, winter season, it, comes to bear now in this like manifestation season,
Yeah.
right? And I can
Yeah.
say for myself, I would not have been able to write this book had I not had a waiting season, right? It's the waiting season that's poured into these pages, right? Now, I
Mm-hmm.
was physically writing as I was filming, doing the residence, but the wisdom of it and the process of it and the methodology of it is what was formed in the waiting, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, in the waiting, too, as you just said, because there's more time to spend with God, there's more time to hear from God, there's more time to read the Bible. And when you're doing that, he's like, it's like stirring up the pot. Like, daughter,
Mm-hmm.
I've got you. Daughter, there's another side to this. I'm getting you ready and getting all those ingredients in you that you're going to need on the other
Mm-hmm.
side for this beautiful, beautiful cake. And the revelations that come, like in that chapter, Secret Power of Hearing God's Voice, he can give you instructions when you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Mm-hmm.
with me, there's such a huge downturn. Like we talk a lot. I mean, and within the industry, we know that here in America, there's a big downturn as far as the industry and
Mm-hmm.
contraction and
Mm-hmm.
all these things. But while I'm like doing this huge show, he's telling me, okay, write a book. It wasn't because I needed to write a book. It's not because, oh, I just want to be an author. I purely did it out of obedience, not knowing that, oh, when the book is released, it's going to be released in a time of famine, so to speak, within the
Mm-hmm.
entertainment industry. But he already called me to do something different, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that strategy, if you're listening to God and willing
Mm.
to surrender and
So
just do
good.
what he
So
tells
good.
you, even if you don't know why, out of
Mm-hmm.
obedience, you have no idea how he could literally be saving your life, just like Joseph and Mary. He gave them
Mm-hmm.
instructions where to go, turn left, go here. Children of Israel, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
go here, turn north, follow this path. And sometimes we don't know what we're being protected from, as well as the
Mm-hmm.
promised land that we're being led into.
That's so good. That's so good. There's so many great examples of that, even in Joseph in the Bible, being thrown in a pit, thinking, "Oh my gosh, I was the sacred son. Now I'm in a pit, and I'm being sold into slavery," and then on and on and on. Just the story of Joseph's life just totally amazes me. If people have not read that, you need to get the Bible and read the story of Joseph because it will inspire you along the way. The World is Waiting for You was a title that was actually divinely given to you as well. But it means also, what I loved about it is the urgency that you share in that title. The world is waiting for you. So where are you doing? What are you doing? You talked about preparing. You talked about being willing to be obedient. You talked about being willing to grow your career in that wait time. But there is this sense of urgency, and sometimes the world puts this urgency on us. But at the same time, we need to react to the urgency that God puts on our lives and where He wants to move us, not where the world wants to move us. So, talk about the title, The World is Waiting for You, how that was given to you, about this sense of urgency that you've always felt within you.
Yeah. In some ways, it's a double entendre, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like balancing your calling with also your dream or vision, right? And sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're different. And the book talks about that, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
on one hand, it's the world is waiting for you, as in the calling that God has on your life that is specific and that does have a schedule attached to it, that He's drawing you out of yourself because He's created you with gifts, talents, abilities, skills, and callings that are meant for the world, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to partner with Him to express these things in the world? But also, He has a promise for you. that
Mm-hmm.
is also in the world. Like I said about my daughter, he told me, name the baby London. I'm going to open a door for you in London. But it required obedience. My child's name was Brooklyn. That's what I decided because me and my husband met in Brooklyn. We got married in Brooklyn. The baby's name is Brooklyn. We didn't know if it was a boy or girl. Baby's name is Brooklyn. And so when this word came, name the baby London, it was purely by faith. And yet it opened up literally a global door to us, and the world was
Mm-hmm.
waiting for us there. And so being able to look at your life from both a sacrificial place
Mm-hmm.
of what is being called on from me right now? What does the world need from me? How can I show up in another way, in an act of service toward this world? But also, how can I open up my mind, my heart, my imagination to the opportunities that wait for me in the world? And
Mm-hmm.
so, I attended back in 2020, I attended this huge Oprah event. And, if anybody's ever been to one of her big tours, there's thousands and thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
But she was talking about how to change the world. And she said, a lot of people think that you have to do something huge, like start a school in Africa and various things I've done. She said, but it's really one life to one life. You can start in your kitchen. You can
Mm-hmm.
start right now with even something small to change the world. And then she stopped and looked out in the audience and she said, isn't that right, Edwina? Edwina Findley is here. And when she said that, I was so taken aback and I'm looking around and what, who, me? And there was something about that moment, too, that made me feel that, what, God is calling me to do even more in the world. It just so happened that afterward, there was a VIP reception, and one of her team members came to me and she said, Edwina, you're such a manifester. The things that you say, they come to pass. The things that you see, they actually happen. How do you do that? And I said, oh, it's God. And she said, okay, but what do you do? What do you do? And I got home and I was praying about that because I'm like, God, I don't want to take any of the glory from you, right? Like you're the one that's doing the manifesting. But what he helped me to see was, well, what she's looking for is a guide. She's looking for a
Mm-hmm.
roadmap. She's looking for, well, how do I get these things to happen too? And so that was really the divine question that
Mm-hmm.
God put in my spirit about how do you answer that? Is there a methodology? Are there steps that people can take in a guidebook type of form to be able to partner with me? And be able to see the things I've promised come to pass. And that's really what birthed this book.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, I know we don't have much time today. We're almost done. I have one more question that is burning on my heart, and that is what if we don't have the connections of Tyler Perry or Oprah or some of the other, larger influencers you've been able to grow your career into? You didn't start out that way. But if we don't have those connections, how do we begin to make some of those connections? How do we walk into those steps and say, okay, God, manifest yourself to me and claim it? I love in the book how you talk about journaling and about writing specific questions in your journaling and creating this plan. So talk about that a little bit and how that is so important.
So, as you just said, I didn't have those things either. I didn't know those people. Literally, they came from prophetic words. I received prophetic words about Oprah. I received prophetic words about Tyler Perry. I was living in low income housing in New York City. The whole first chapter is called From Harlem to Hollywood for that reason, right? Like my life did not look anything like it looks right now. All of that was divinely revealed while I was doing, vision workshops, making $15 an hour, in the projects. God was saying, you're going to know Oprah and you're going to go around the world and you're going to be in Hollywood. And so, again, that tension between the life that you're living and the vision that you have can feel light years away.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually begin to believe it, right? So I feel like that's the first part. If you can start to internalize the possibility that your life can be exponentially different,
Mm-hmm.
if you can first just even allow yourself to believe that, and then to start to retrain your mind, not
Mm-hmm.
to fight it, right? Because our tendency is, and that's why there's a whole chapter that says, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? What I found is that God really tries to get us to accept a new identity, right? An identity that's a reflection of Him and what His God dream is over our lives. And we see it in the
Mm-hmm.
Bible with Esther. We see, who went from Hadassah to Esther. We see it in the Bible with Abraham, who went from Abram to Abraham, or Jacob to Israel, right? Like he specialized in changing people's names. And when he changed people's names, he changed their identity,
Mm-hmm.
right? He was offering them a new identity, but they had to step into it, right? And so a lot of times we hold ourselves back. And that's another chapter in the book. Confront
Mm-hmm.
what's holding you back. You can hold yourself back from all the things that God is showing you. And so, listen, if you don't have those connections like I didn't have those Viola Davis and all that. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have those connections. But what I did was serve. And I'm going to say that I have found that service is a very powerful way to begin developing relationships on new levels. A lot of
Absolutely.
times we
Mm-hmm.
look at networking, just like being in the room with who we would call big influential people and trying to get their information and try to this. But really how people have come into some level of proximity to me, how I've come into certain proximity to others has been how can I serve you? And in fact, and I don't even know if Oprah remembers this, but years ago, the first time we ever met, I asked her, "Is there a way I can serve you?"
Mm-hmm.
And people would be surprised how having that kind of humble
Mm-hmm.
um heart can
Mm-hmm.
open up doors for you, you being willing to serve. And that's why I say the world is waiting for you. That includes high level people, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's one woman I met at church just yesterday. I'm sitting here as a guest, but this woman asked for prayer. I said, "What do you need prayer over?" And she said financial healing. And so I prayed with her about financial healing. And at the
Mm-hmm.
end of service, I felt like the Lord stirred in my spirit, ask her if she needs a job. And so I asked her, "Do you need a job? Are you looking for a job?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "What do you do?" When she told me what she did, I said, "Oh my God, all last night, and when I say all the night before, I was wrestling because I was having problems in that same area that she is uniquely designed to serve." And she said, "I would love to work with you." Oh my gosh. I said, "Well, send me your resume." But here, and then she looked at me, she said, "You look so familiar to me. Do we know each other? Have I ever seen you?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'm an actress." She said, oh my gosh, yes, I was just watching you. I was just watching. And here you are sitting next to me at church, And so I'm just saying that to say that if we go through our waiting season, if we do the things that God has called us to do, God will put you in places.
Mm-hmm.
He will put you in places
He
that
does
you
guide our
never thought
steps.
you'd be. The Bible says He guides our steps, and the Bible says our gift will make room for us and will put you into the presence of great men. So I know this is a long way of answering your question, but I would say to any person who wants to be in the presence of great men, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like doesn't have those connections and feels so far away, serve and also cultivate your gift.
Mm-hmm.
Cultivate your gift because your gift is what's going to open the door, is
Mm-hmm.
what's going to make room for you.
Ah, so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight. You've just
Yes,
inspired
so
me. You
welcome.
always keep inspiring me, and I love you to death for how God's used you and how your boldness and your courage is leading the way to opening more doors for you and for others in the business as well, in the industry. And so it's just a joy to watch you soar to the top, but to continue to serve our King Jesus. Ultimately, that's what we're put on this earth to do, is to serve Him, and that you just exemplify that in such a beautiful way. So thank you so much for being with us. How do we get your book one more time, and where do we find it?
Yes, Kathleen, thank you. The book is called The World is Waiting for You. Embrace Your Calling and Manifest the God Dream over your life. You can get it anywhere books are sold: Amazon, Target, Walmart, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble. And you can also come and join us on the website. I've started a community. We're going to go through this book. We're going to start with our vision books. In the book, I talk a lot about vision and vision books. And now is the time, leading into 2026, for us to come together around our vision, around our God dream, and really have one another to lean on in order to manifest our dreams in 2026. So I'm excited. The website is called theworldiswaiting.org, and there you'll find a lot more information.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for joining us for the Influence Women podcast. I'm your host and global director, Kathleen Cooke. It's been a joy. Well, thanks for joining us today for the Influence Women podcast. I'm your host and global director, Kathleen Cooke, and it's been a joy having you with us and having Edwina Findley with us. She, again, is an award-winning film, television, and theater actress with her new book out, The World is Waiting for You. So check out where you can read it and get a copy of it now at theworldiswaiting.org. Check out all of our podcasts on the Influence Women podcast channel. Join us and become a member at influencewomen.org if you're not a member. We have chapter groups around the United States and an international online chapter group. We want to connect, collaborate, so that you can create to change our culture and change our media. And don't forget, before you leave, to click the bell to be notified for the next Influence Women podcast. Like us if you haven't, and also please leave a comment. It really helps us grow our show, and it helps us know that you have been connecting with us and that you like us. So check out all of our Influence Women podcasts and join us for the next one at influencewomen.org and our podcast channel at Influence Women. Have a great day. God bless.